All right, we're ready to go.
Right. I would now like to call the October 18th, 2023 Longmont Sustainability Advisory Board meeting to order. Could we please start with the roll call?
Yes, Kate Collardson.
Here.
Jim Metcalf.
Present.
Mary Lynn is not with us today. Michelle Roth.
Here.
Charles Musgrave.
I'm here.
Robert Davidson.
Here.
Ralph Grosswald.
Here.
Becky Doyle is here. She's
Can't find the unmute button here.
That's all right. Francie Jaffe.
Here.
Susan Bartlett.
Here.
Heather McIntyre is here, and Nicole Manesh is with us as well. And Councilmember Martin is not quite here yet, but Chair, we do have a quorum.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll read our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that Longmont sits on the traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and other indigenous peoples. We honor the history and living and spiritual connection that the First Peoples have with this land. It is our commitment to face the injustices that happened when the land was taken, and to educate our communities, ourselves, and our children to ensure that these injustices do not happen again. And our inclusion statement, the Sustainability Advisory Board embraces diverse perspectives from its members and the public. To create an inclusive space where everyone feels welcome to share their opinion, the board asks that all attendees listen and speak with respect and avoid attacks on individuals or specific group identities. And that brings us to approval of minutes of the last meeting. Did anyone see anything that needed to be amended, or is there a motion to approve?
I will move to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Are there any revisions to the agenda?
Yes, we would like to add something under items from staff, specifically in relation to the transportation mobility plan.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our general business. Jim, you are in the spotlight. You have the floor.
All right, exciting. So this is stab 3 at a draft that people might like, and Charles helped out with this, and I've tried to incorporate comments from both staff and other board members that came up during the last time that I guess it was not September, but August meeting that we actually went over this. So I've tried to incorporate those things, and there were some changes in language and tone, I think, that were pointed out that I think were very good. There were some other comments about trying to encourage like a stepped restart of different things that I tried to find ways to get the language in. I basically tried to include everybody's changes, but I think we're at a point now where if people would like to make changes, I'd probably like them to make the changes, because I think that I might have gotten to the point where I'm either not understanding somebody's the comments that I forgot about, or it might just be quicker if other people do those things. So I don't know if people had a chance to read it yet. Maybe if people had, or if they'd like to take a few minutes here just to go over it. It's not very long. And I mean, I could highlight, I guess, a couple of the things. So one of the changes that was recommended was that I had originally written that the policy changes significantly limits both the types and the quantity of materials can be composted, but Francie pointed out, and others, that that's probably actually not true, that actually the waste diversion is still pretty high from these things. And so even though I still think it would be very helpful for us to be able to compost a lot of other things besides food waste and yard waste and things like that, volumetrically, that I wanted to make sure that was reflected in the language. And then also I think I kind of tried to make it a little bit more of a partnering with instead of demanding that type sentimentality with A1 Organics. It's clear that, you know, I think that the struggles that they ran into were real in terms of pollution of the compost stream, and they just didn't have the ability to deal with that. And so it'd be nice, actually, I think, if we could kind of leverage some of the other goals of the sustainability plan, like some of the outreach and education goals, maybe that we could use as a way to try to kind of like reestablish that. So I think I tried to change the tone of it as well a little bit to be more, yeah, partnering with, and including also maybe making regional partnerships with other municipalities and entities that could also be having a problem. So, anybody have any questions or things that kind of popped out? I guess might be a good way to do it, or thoughts?
First of all, I want to say thank you for all the work you put into this. I think it looks really good. I did take a bit to read it, and I really like the changes. I think it is more it reflects partnership as opposed to demands. I really like the way you change things. The one idea that I had that might or might not be a good thing to do is I wonder if these 4 options are too limiting. What if somebody comes in and says, I've got the best way to do this, and it's not in this, like in this list? Does that, are we boxing ourselves in? Is there a way to say options include but are not limited to, or
Yeah,
you know, any other?
Yeah. So I tried to hedge the bet by saying the city could achieve this by,
Okay.
but I do agree that that could be strengthened. You know, number 5 or other amazing ideas, but something that sounds better, right? So I'd be definitely open to language suggestions on how that could be emphasized, because even though I tried to have it there, it clearly wasn't emphasized enough to get everybody. And so I'd be totally up for policy change ideas or language change ideas.
So I suggest that amending the city could achieve this by to something along the lines of options for achieving this include but are not limited to.
Okay.
Yeah. Ralph, what you got?
I had a stronger thought because I had a lot of questions when I realized how little I actually know about what happened with A1. That would be one option. I was just thinking to add 5 or any other strategy that accomplishes, and go back up. I can't see now the language above that Jim originally was referencing, so that it just continues to be very, you know, keeping the door open to accomplishing what the goals are. And by the way, Jim, you did do a great job on this. We started on this in July, and I truthfully don't remember the other drafts, but I read this carefully, and it really does read very well. And that was the only real thought that I had, was any other strategy that accomplishes and then refers back to some other language that makes it consistent with the rest of the document. Was just a thought, but I'm okay with Kate's suggestion too, if you just want to make an alteration there.
Okay, well, so let's see. I really like this idea. I kind of think that that's a really good kind of like outlet, and that I think that fits well into the whole idea of partnering with the compost experts, is that they might have good ideas as to how to do this as well, right? I think that's very important. Let's see. So I guess the question is, do we want to make a 0.5, or do we want to alter the preamble to the ways that it could be achieved. And I think I might be leaning in favor of altering the preamble, kind of in a way that Kate, although I don't know. Yeah, so
I
options
see
for
that-
achieving.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I see that Francie has turned on her camera and perhaps she
Oh.
has ideas,
Yes.
but
Oh, sorry, I had a different comment, so I was gonna wait until
Okay.
turn on my camera too early. So, I just had another comment on the document that was unrelated.
okay.
Alright.
Are there any resolution experts on the call? Maybe once Marcia joins.
Not New Year's resolutions.
Just one thing to note, that the resolution is not setting policy in any way. It's just making a resolution for the city council to direct staff to explore those options. So it doesn't, I mean, we can broaden it without being so specific, but it's not like if you say in here partnering with A1 Organics, that would not be the only option. It would be, let's find a solution that works for Longmont.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So if we left in what the changes or options for achieving this could include but are not limited by, I mean, one other option would be partnering with A1 Organics and or other experts. Like we could add something like that just to kind of broaden the reach. I don't know if
Sure.
that would.
Yep, I like that.
Okay, so for like parts 1 and 2.
Mhm. And 4.
Yeah. So that would be a way to kind of expand it.
Mhm.
And then I already have it down there.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe we should change that instead of a new composting partner. Maybe that should be and or other compost experts. Actually, no, that doesn't really fit, does it? Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think it actually fits in there. But
Yeah.
I think in those two places, I like that.
Do others have thoughts here?
Yeah, just as a side, not related to the resolution itself. Who on city staff is interfacing with A1? I'm just curious, as you know, I have a pretty strong business background. I'm just really curious what the interchanges were, and I may have missed this from earlier discussions, what the interchanges were that led to this, because you know, I'm certainly not happy with the change that they made, and I'm just wondering what transpired. I know they obviously ran into problems, but who is the interface from the city side on this?
Francie, do you want to take that or do you want me to answer that?
Sure. Charles Camanides, our waste services manager, I know was very involved in as well as with other cities, representatives from other cities. I know it was pretty short notice, if I recall correctly, that to the cities that this change was going to happen, and that we worked to do our best to try to work with them to understand, but the contamination at that point was too high. I would say if the board is interested in learning more about that process, we could request that Charles Camanides comes to a future meeting.
I think that would be great. And at a past meeting, we've also had A1 Organics come and speak. This was a long time ago. And if there's a way to get both, that would be amazing.
I would love that. I mean, I think it's great that I apologize that I'm just butting in without being recognized by the chair here, but
Continual recognition.
thank you. I mean, I think it's great that we're providing this resolution because it will certainly put this a little more strongly on the radar for city council. But, you know, I would love to be proactive about this in our role. I know we're just an advisory board, but maybe it's just me, but I mean, I'm really interested in seeing how either I or we as a committee can help a little more with this process so that we can because it's unfortunate what's happening here. And we want to move in the other direction, not in restricting this. And then to restrict it and try to educate people to, why they can't put certain things in is not the direction I think that we want to be going to meet our sustainability goals. So just some thoughts for, the more seasoned pros on the board to think about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, like, for me, one of the reasons that I was very interested in just trying to keep this on the radar, and like, and I totally understand A1 Organics decision, like it seems that they were put in an untenable position and they were losing money, and I totally understand that. But there's so many times that we've talked about different aspects of the sustainability resolution, and getting businesses to use compostable to-go containers and reducing polystyrene and all these things. And it just seems like it is actually, it's, even if the volume now isn't enormous, it seems like having this capability could actually grow. The number of things that we aren't throwing in a landfill could actually significantly increase if we're actually good about this, and if the city provides good things.
I'm aligned, and I really want to see this, see us bring this back. And I'm also sad that, the education that the city has done thus far, like once we make a change, it's, everybody gets confused. And I know people like my mom are throwing up their hands. Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore.
Yeah.
And then we're going to hopefully change it back. And then that's not ideal. I think we can all acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Nicole, I see you on your camera. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to, if I could just share some more information on it. I know maybe not everyone on the board is familiar with me, so I'm the zero waste coordinator, so I can speak a little bit to A1 Organics and everything that's been going on with their waste contamination and kind of what our approach is for the city with the educational outreach aspect. So what happened with A1 Organics was just the waste contamination levels are just at such high rates through the region that that was the message that they sent out to all of us regionally within the city of Longmont, Boulder, everyone. So we don't really have any control of what they're accepting or not willing to accept. So I would love for them to be able to expand it more, but just because of the waste contamination levels, they're not able to at this time. And then I just want to touch base that I agree with everyone and what everyone has been saying. I just wanted to share on my end, we're looking at doing a really big educational outreach push with the city for folks kind of on waste sorting, on providing different types of materials and signage, and that's all going to accompany everything with the universal recycling ordinance. So I would say hopefully in the near future, everyone will be able to start seeing kind of some of those pushes very soon.
Great, thank you. Okay. Francie, you had another comment on.
Yes, it more of something minor. Jim, you referenced the link to our sustainability plan online. For ADA requirements that are going into effect next year, we'll actually be taking down the link to that plan. And instead, we'll be directing folks to Longmont Indicators that did launch a few weeks ago. It did soft launch. We'll be doing more outreach to that new website next year, and I'll talk to Lisa about coming and doing a more extensive update for you all. But that is the link that I would recommend replace the direct link to the sustainability plan, and I can send that to you via email.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for catching that.
And congratulations on the soft launch. I know a lot went into that. Other thoughts, suggested amendments? Are we ready to vote? Yeah. It's okay. So I think I can make an emotion to I would like to move to approve the compost resolution with the amendments discussed today and the revised website. Yes.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Well
Thank you, everybody.
done. Good job, Jim.
Thank you,
Thanks
Jim.
for writing that.
Real quick,
Yeah,
was that
well,
6?
That was all of us. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you, everybody, for the ideas and input. I think it's much better than it started out.
Turned out great.
That was a great team effort. So
One
thanks.
other quick question. How was this presented to the city council, and would we know, does this just happen in back office, or does it happen at a meeting? How is this going to be given to them? Because if it's going to happen at a meeting, I'd like to be at that city council meeting.
That's a great question. There's a couple of different ways that we can do it. Either you all can take it as a board through public invited to be heard, or staff can put it on the schedule for a meeting and then let you all know when it will be.
Is that up to us to decide?
Mhm.
Yes.
It seems like putting on a formal meeting is the way to get it discussed to me. I mean, it's very fun when there's a public support that goes behind it. I think that's great, and we can do that as well. But just like with us, when the public invited to be heard is here, there's no obligation to respond to it.
And just so you know, when staff puts an item like this, resolutions usually have one meeting that they go to council. And because of that, it usually goes on the consent agenda. So it's kind of lumped together with other easy items that, unless they're controversial, the city council will just approve them all at one time. If a member has something that they want to discuss on it, they can pull it from that consent agenda and then they can discuss it later in the meeting. But typically, those items just pass without discussion. So
Are you saying that we should make it more controversial?
no, not necessarily.
Just kidding.
Or more high profile.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted you to know that that's kind of how the process is. I don't know that it needs to be more high profile. They do get the information in their packets. It's made available to the public when the packets are published, and so.
I mean, maybe I don't know if Councilwoman Martin is going to be able to join us, but perhaps we can ask her to highlight it out of, during that meeting. Seems like that would be a good role for her.
Agreed.
So general consensus for staff to put it on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. With no public here to be heard, and no other business, that takes us to items from the staff. And Francie, you have 2 items.
Great, thank you, Chair. The first item, as you all saw in your packet, there was a letter from a member of the Westminster, I think theirs is the Environmental Advisory Board, looking for some cross collaboration. And they, I'll just reread their question they had. They were interested if there's interest in a cross regional dialogue and collaboration, and if so, could a contact information be shared so they could reach out to discuss their interest in future networking event that we are planning on hosting. I also just like to remind everyone, if more than 3 of you decide to attend, we do need to make that a public meeting and public notice.
And to clarify, it is 3 or more?
Yes, 3 or more. Sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah, thoughts on this? Let's open the floor.
I
Please.
Yeah, it seems to me like, great idea to connect with neighboring communities, to, learn their best practices, to see if there's anything that they're doing, or, to share what we're doing and maybe help them. The air, the water, et cetera, doesn't recognize our city boundaries very well. And so it's really good that, if we can help our neighbors also move in the same direction. So together we can all, the whole area can be more sustainable, et cetera.
I'm aligned.
So would an option be that, so my understanding is if all of us went, it'd have to be a public meeting, but if we had a representative or two, it wouldn't have to be. So would be the idea that perhaps we could have volunteers who might want to have their contact information shared, who would be interested in being part of this? And then could report back to us.
I think that makes the most sense. Does anybody have time and willingness to add this to their calendar? Ralph, you do?
I have interest. I mean, I'm not sure what the time commitment is, but if their interest is in having an event, I would be very happy to represent our board or accompany other board members. But I'd be interested. I think, like Charles, I think it's a great idea to interface with our other communities and share ideas and vision.
Great. I think so too. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember, did they provide any kind of a date or a range of when they were thinking about doing this? Yeah, because
I didn't. Yeah, go for it. No.
yeah, okay, because definitely interested and happy to, like Ralph, same exact sentiment that Ralph expressed, but my availability changes drastically depending on when it would happen.
I think they're right now are just kind of gauging interest from the other communities, so.
Yeah, okay.
So, I guess one of the things that you all could say is, yes, we're interested and we'd like to do it just of like a, subcommittee or a, representative from our community to be a part of that discussion or something.
That sounds great.
Do we need to vote on that response? Oh, sorry.
I just had a question. Yeah, I think it sounds great too. The Westminster is very similar. It seems like population size and size of the actual city and everything. So I think it'll be a great comparison. I was curious, just like, is it, the setting, is it like a formal thing or like is it going to be all the different like Boulder representative and Lafayette, Louisville type thing, or is it just Westminster? But yeah, I think it's a great idea to be discussing that, and maybe there's some topic that we're not even touching upon that they're discussing that just hasn't even crossed our mind yet.
Vice versa, yeah. Francie, did you have an answer there?
Yeah, well, not a helpful answer. We've received the same information that we have shared with you all. So based on how it's worded, our assumption is that it was sent out to multiple cities. I do not know which cities, but I would recommend that be part of the follow-up. And then I also just have a point of process follow-up. Maria, who sent this letter, did provide her contact information as you all decide on next steps. I just want clarity of whether you'd like staff to respond and then loop in Ralph and Charles or whoever you decide are the representatives, or do the representatives who are taking the lead on this just want to go ahead and respond directly?
I mean, I'm very comfortable, Francie, just to have it come from you guys, just to create the dialogue, and then we'll stand by for whatever the next steps are. But, whatever Charles thinks is okay too.
Yeah, I think exactly the same, Ralph. That makes sense to me.
I agree. I think it makes sense to keep it going that way. So, So it sounds like we have two folks who are willing to attend this if and when it happens. Thanks, y'all. Okay, are there further questions from staff on that? Do we need to do anything else?
Just maybe one note, if it's all right with Ralph and Charles, that when staff gets back with Maria, to include you both on that contact so that you can take it from there.
Sure.
Definitely. Start you out as intermediaries and then transfer it over to direct communication with Ralph and I. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Francie, you have the floor still.
Great, thank you. So the other item is the city is working on updating and developing a transportation mobility plan next year. I'm going to look to the side, so I'm just going to read a little bit on a little bit of context. The city is partnering with a consulting firm to focus on advancing alternative and active modes of transportation, and looking into incorporating innovative approaches to planning and implementations of projects, specifically to help rebalance travel modes to give each an equal sense of being safe, comfortable, reliable, and efficient. This transportation mobility plan will be developed over the next year. And as part of it, they have a technical advisory committee that is going to meet 4 times throughout the course of the year. Each time they're estimating a meeting about 2 hours, and they were looking to see if there was a member of the Sustainability Advisory Board who would be interested in participating on that committee. They have set the first meeting is Friday, October 27th from 10:30 a.m. to noon. Although I'm sure if there's someone interested who can't make that meeting, we could put you directly in contact with the staff member leading that effort to coordinate next steps. But are there any questions on the attempt or the request?
Francie, did they mention whether the meetings were in person or online, Zoom or?
I'm just double checking to make sure. I do not think they mentioned whether it was on person or Zoom. My guess, and we can definitely get back, my assumption is that there would be a hybrid option available if it is in person, but I cannot say for sure.
Because if there's a hybrid option, I could help and serve on that committee. I was on the advisory, I forget what you call it. There's some kind of community advisory committee or something for the county for the 119 corridor that we worked on, and actually the county got a pretty good sized grant for the 119 transportation corridor that's going on, and I think the city interfacing with that's maybe a good idea. But yeah, I could, as long as there's a hybrid option, I'd be happy. If no one else wants to, someone else wants to fight me for it, I'd be happy to relent.
Thanks for volunteering, Charles. Anyone else want to arm wrestle Charles for that?
I don't think I'd be able to reliably be available on Friday mornings.
Same.
I appreciate Charles doing it.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Charles, I think you're it. Thank you.
Hey, we're not recording this meeting, are we? Recorded?
Recording.
Oh no. Okay, I'm committed.
Good deal. Did that complete that item? All right.
Yes, thank you. And Charles will let you know as soon as we do about a hybrid or remote option.
Could I ask a quick question? Francie, I didn't exactly get the whole thing of what this is about. If there's a document, I don't want you to have to sit and write anything, or a reference or a place where there's information. Could you give that to Heather and let her send it? Certainly, I'd like to see it so that I just have a little deeper understanding without wasting the board's time of what this initiative is.
I do have the email that was sent over to us, so I can just forward it to you all and
Okay.
you can see what we got from our coworker for that. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if that email, you still have follow-up questions, I know there's a scope of work that was sent out when we requested the RFP process. I don't know, based on where we are and kind of hiring the consultant, whether that's publicly available or not. But if it is, that's something we could share as well. If that might help with some additional follow-up questions.
Yeah, great idea, Ralph.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. Okay. Yes.
I just got a response. So the kickoff meeting will be in person with a remote option. We will let the group decide future formats based on schedules of the members.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that. And that still works for you, Charles? Okay, great. Okay. Then we that brings us to items from the board. Are there any items that anyone on the board? Yes, Jim.
I promise this won't be long, but this weekend I was listening to that Longmont podcast Side Dish, and they were interviewing the Green Girl Recycling, the woman who owns Green Girl Recycling. And one of the things that she said I was interested in is that many of the people who shred paper around town just throw the shredded paper in the landfill afterwards, and it's not actually recycled, and that she recycles at Green Girl Recycling. And I was curious if we know what happens to when the city has the shredding events at the transfer station, if we are partnering with people who recycle that paper or if it is being landfilled. And I didn't know. I'm sure somebody here knows or could find out, but I was curious if we actually know the answer to that.
No one is jumping up with that information, so
Nicole, do you know?
go.
I do know.
Yay.
So at the city events for recycling for shredded paper specifically, we are able to recycle it and we are partnering with the different recycling centers within the community. So spot on.
Thank you so much.
Love it. And thanks for letting me know about that podcast, Jim.
It's where you find out about all the new restaurants that are moving into town.
All right, cool. Okay, with Marcia not here, we don't have any items from council. So that brings us to informational items and board correspondence, which is included in your packet. And that brings us to the end of our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Second.
Seems like it's too early to adjourn, isn't it?
Not. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Charles, you can stay on if you want.
It's okay.
Who's gonna hang out with me?
Heather has to stay here till 6 contractually
don't
talking
know.
to anybody.
One quick comment. I want to thank the staff who are incredible with the information they bring to us. Just thanks to all you guys. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for saying that, Ralph. Spot on. Great
Where's
meeting.
Lisa today?
Lisa had another commitment she couldn't get out of today, so Francie's holding down the fort for her.
And thanks for doing that, Francie.
Good fill-in.
Thank you guys. Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
guys. See you
Thank you.
soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Good job, Jim, on the resolution.